Reactive Training Systems.
Welcome to the RTS interview series. Today we're here at the Arnold Classic with Isabella von Weissenberg. Now, many people might assume that her name is pronounced Isabella von Weissenberg. I'm not great at pronouncing it either, so my first question is, Isabella, how do you pronounce your name?
It's Isabella von Weissenberg.
So, Isabella von Weissenberg. The B is a little bit soft. So today I'm really just curious about your entire lifting career, lifting history. I'll have a lot of questions coming in from Instagram that I'd like to get to. And the first question I want to ask you is more about your origin story. Why did you start powerlifting, and when did you know that it was something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, the reason was that I was completely out of shape 4.5 years ago. My sister bought me a gym card. Started going to the gym, started getting strong incredibly fast, and pulled a 140 kilo deadlift within 3 months, and kind of fell in love that moment that I pulled that deadlift.
What was the feeling that you could describe about the deadlift itself? You know, why at that moment did you say, all right, powerlifting's a thing I'm going to dedicate hours a day every week to pursue?
Well, I think it was my first experience of using my aggression in any activity, and like using it in a controlled form that I found very intriguing.
We actually got an Instagram question about how you utilize your rage, like how much psych up are you capable of using, and do you ever get to a point where it becomes detrimental?
Well, the thing is that it has nothing to do with like rage or any form of negative emotion. I just don't feel that when I'm lifting. More of an like intensified version of the feelings that I'm already having, which could be happiness or like excitement.
So a lot of powerlifters, when they are yelling at the bar and grunting, it seems like they're angry. But I've heard some stories about the music you listened to before, a PR. Would you like to share some of those songs, top 5 songs to PR to?
I PR'd quite a few lifts to the a cappella version of Cheerleader, which is not a very aggressive song.
Is that by Pentatonics?
Yeah, it's quite cheery.
Next two. Any other?
Definitely Despacito. And well, any EDM song, basically.
And you're raging during it seems like you're mad, right? It seems like you're mad when you're listening to Justin Bieber's sweet voice in the song Despacito. So the next question is, what is your favorite exercises? What exercises do you find to be the most helpful for all of your lifts, really? And so, like, your assistance movement for the squat, bench, and deadlift.
Oh, good question. I spent most of my years lifting, like, mainly focusing on the 3 lifts. There hasn't been like one assistant movement that I think has stood out until recently, and now I would probably say it would be the pause squat.
What do you find about the pause squat that is different than the competition squat? When was the first time you did a pause squat, and what was the first thought you had about it?
Oh, first time, that was probably a few years ago. And well, since it's pretty close to my actual max, it doesn't differ that much. It still gives me like the same intensity and the same focus as in the competition squat. What I do in the competition squat is that I dive bomb it a little bit, so it helps me to just get more control of the hole, going down in the hole. And
for the bench press, do you do any special exercises that you find to benefit your competition bench?
Well, focusing on lockout more has actually helped me quite a bit, and the pin press, like slightly off the chest, probably has been very good for me as well.
And deadlift doesn't seem to have that many variations, but of the variations that you've performed over the few years, which variation have you preferred the most?
I mean, I don't want to lie on camera. There is none.
Hates all assistance movements. I want to backtrack a little bit. How long have you even been powerlifting?
I think it's been 4.5 years. I started like seriously lifting at a powerlifting gym in August 2013.
And that where was this?
This was in Gothenburg. I'd been going to a commercial gym for a few months, and like when I got to the actual powerlifting gym, I didn't know anything about powerlifting. They had to explain everything to me, but I was still the strongest girl there.
So in the last 4 years, you've had a pretty successful, so far, it's a pretty successful career, and you've gone to Worlds how many times?
3.
And can you describe what the feeling was at the first Worlds competition that you went to, and has anything changed from the first Worlds competition to the last one in Minsk in 2017?
Yeah, the first one was awful. Not the experience in itself, that was very empowering, but the months leading up to it had there was so much anxiety involved. I think it was I'd been training for 1.5 years, so I think things had just been going a little bit too fast, to be honest. So like getting through that and doing a good performance at my first Worlds was like game changing for my approach to lifting, so happy that it went well. Last year was fantastic. It was just 100% positive experience.
So touch on that a little bit. You said you had a lot of anxiety with the first Worlds competition that you had. Was there anything that you could do at that moment that you could help to control it, or was that something you had to learn? What are your kind of tips to help control some of those feelings?
What I did, I got the tip to start visualizing. I was in March that this person told me to start visualizing how I wanted the lifts to feel instead of focusing on the numbers that I wanted to do. So I started doing that every day, and I'm still doing it every day. So that changed enormously for me after like learning how to think about how I want to perform.
And at what point during the week or during the competition training cycle, do you start visualizing? Do you visualize the end first, or do you wait? Do you visualize each session? How does that process work?
I visualize something about lifting more or less every hour of the day. It's constantly on my mind, and I think about every aspect of it, like how I want the lift to feel, what the environment is going to look like, what sounds are going to be in the room, how my physical feeling is going to be, what kind of emotional state that I want to be in when I lift. Like every aspect of it I'm like constantly going over it.
Awesome. So what for reference, what are you thinking about right now? The Arnold is coming. You're competing on Saturday at the Grand Prix. Now, what are your current thoughts about that?
Well, first and foremost, I want it to be a positive experience. I am well aware that a lot of things are new for me. This cycle, past few months, I have changed. Like a lot of key factors in my training are different. So I'm there to see what I can do with what I have right now, which is going to be interesting. So I don't want to go there and like walk away with it and think that I didn't learn anything, because that is sort of my purpose of going. And well, that was a bit broad answer. Do you want me to be more specific?
I had a question coming from Instagram asking, so we're going back a little bit, but someone asked what your top 3 tips are for somebody who wants to compete but hasn't yet figured out, maybe mentally, what's the first steps? Like, what do they do? What would you recommend to someone who wants to compete but hasn't yet?
Well, speaking from experience, I would advise that person to make sure that the focus of their first meet is just to get a hang of what's going on at meet day. Like, learn the steps that you need to go through during a competition. Like, leave all thoughts of results behind. That has nothing to do with what you want to do on your first meet day. You just want to learn how to weigh in, learn how to listen to signals, get 9 out of 9. Because there are going to be so many new things for you that it's most likely going to be overwhelming. So what you want to do is focus on having fun and not walk out of that with a negative experience. Because there will be more competitions if you enjoy it.
You've recently switched to sumo deadlifting, and what was the reason behind that decision?
Spontaneous decision to switch. Mike put it in the program, and I thought it was fun. So I'm doing my first sumo competition, and on the competition day, it's going to be my 8th sumo session ever. So that's interesting. See how it goes. Maybe I'll forget how to do it, like standing on the platform.
So her 8th time deadlifting will be this Saturday. So I believe it'll be live streamed if you want to know what it feels like to do something for the 8th time at competition. There's another thing that you've changed. You've been competing at the 72 kilogram weight class for the entirety of your training?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And recently you've made some changes to that idea. Like what, you're losing weight right now, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about why you've decided to cut weight?
Well, once again, I'm always looking for learning experiences, and having done pretty well in the 72 category for a few years now, I decided it was time to switch things up and get stimulated by something new. And I have been thinking about going to the 63 for 2 years. So, like, what's the point of waiting any longer when you've been thinking about it for that long? I don't know. I guess I just want to see what I'm capable of.
You've done pretty well at the world competitions, and honestly at all your competitions in the 72 kilogram weight class, and I want to talk about that a little bit too. Last year at the 2017 Worlds in Minsk, Belarus, you competed against Anna Rosa Castellan. I apologize, Anna, if you're watching this. You guys had a pretty intense competition between taking the world record on the squat. Yeah. What was the meet selection like, or the meet attempt selection like at that meet, and how did it feel just going back and forth like that?
Well, I was coming in with the world record at 192 kilos, 192.5 kilos. So in my second attempt, I went for, I chipped it and went for 193, and I smoked that lift. It was incredibly easy, actually. And then Anna Rosa went for 196.5, I believe. No, 196, right, in her third. And very easily made it. And I decided to go for 197.5 because I thought it had it in me because of how easy 193 was. But I just didn't make it, unfortunately. So, yeah, that was it.
I imagine it wasn't awesome, right?
Well, it's almost frustrating when the previous lift is so easy that I just wish. Well, actually, I learned something from it, so that was good. I usually start pretty quickly in training. Like I rack the bar, I walk out, and I go. So if a referee holds me for a few seconds longer than I'm used to, that has a tendency to throw me off very much with my focus. And I remember that's what happened. So I took that with me, trying to practice that a bit more. I know you can't always be okay. Fine, you might not be satisfied with what happened, but you can always learn something from it.
Been cutting for how long since? When did you start cutting?
Well, in the 72 kilo category, I usually walk around at around 75, 76. So I've been cutting from 76 kilos since October.
So what was the process like? So, how have you been able to successfully lose, 10 kilograms so far?
8 kilos by now. I think, yeah, 8. Well, I've been I've been getting help from a nutrition coach, Martin Berkan, who's the founder of a concept he calls lean gains, which is intermittent fasting. It's been working very well for me. I've been basically doing that for years, but this is the first time on a calorie deficit. And I don't know, by his regime, just eating the most optimal nutrition sources and nutrition timing has been on point. And also, I guess because of the fact that my motivation is so high, I have been like going in with the best attitude, and it's just been going well, basically.
So for competitors that are trying to lose weight, what would you recommend them to do? What strategies so far, other than just intermittent fasting, that have you found beneficial? Foods to eat, types of food, stuff like that?
Well, you don't want to skip out on anything. That's pretty basic, but good tip if anyone was thinking about that. I don't know, if you don't have the competence or the information that you need to have, you should ask for help. And I would definitely recommend that you ask for help anyway, because you need someone to remind you that you're doing okay. I've been like freaking out a lot and writing to him and telling him that I'm stressed about it, and he needs to remind me all the time to relax and like show me the numbers. You're on track all the time, because I think that it's not going fast enough, and that there are just a lot of thoughts in your head when you have a goal that is so far away and you need to take it really slowly. I guess that's been the most difficult part, but getting help with that is, I would say, essential.
Awesome. I want to transition that a little bit towards training too. You've been making a lot of changes with your training strategy. You mentioned that this training cycle has been very different compared to what you're used to. Can you talk a little bit about what the biggest changes have been?
Well, yes. I guess the biggest thing is that I have a new coach. It was great, but still, it's new. And I would say that since I'm used to having, I was coached by someone who was there every session and looking at my training as I went every week, every day. The biggest change has been to be a little bit more on my own in my training and having more. I have to trust myself much more, considering that Mike is coaching me online. He's been adding a lot of movements that I'm not used to, which I think has been very good, and I'm responding very well to the stimulation of the training.
Well, how about we talk a little bit about something, people still have some arguments against utilizing RPE. Mm-hmm. What have you noticed so far, and how have you been utilizing an RPE style program? How long have you been doing that? And what have you found the difference to be compared to just pure percentage-based programming?
Well, I have more or less never used percentage or fixed numbers in my training. So I would say that auto-regulation is nothing new for me, but using RPE at this level is something that I'm still trying to get the hang of. What I do find is that when I have fixed numbers, my anxiety levels go up a lot. I feel so much pressure from just seeing that number on the paper that this is what I'm supposed to do, and I start to overthink it. So for me as a person, it just works perfectly to adjust training from daily basis.
We have another question that came in on Instagram, and I think it's probably a pretty good way to wrap this up. But in regards back to the cut, how have you been able to get stronger while you've been cutting? It seems like a lot of people think that it's not possible. Yeah,
well, that thought alone is going to make it harder to think that something's not possible. I think I've been more motivated than usual. I've been focusing 100% on my training past few months with a focus that I don't think I've ever had before. So there's that. And second thing is I guess all the additions to my new program that I haven't been doing before. It's giving me a new stimulation to my training that I'm responding well to. Like obviously switching it up with Mike's program has helped me. And I Also, I think that having my nutrition on point, which I probably haven't had before, has helped. And I was walking around with a little bit of extra before, so I am very lean right now, but I haven't reached that point yet where I'm like feeling hungry and exhausted or fatigued, which I'm sure I will sooner or later. So, yeah, that's probably it.
Do you find that not only the stimulation of the new program and the fact that you're focused, right? And how much do you think the psychological impact and like how you think about your day-to-day impacts how well you perform in training?
Oh, a lot. Well, in relation to that previous question, the first few weeks of the diet, I was feeling very weak. Like every session, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. I am getting weaker now because of the diet. And okay, this is how it's going to be now. And then my friend, Amanda, she told me, well, are you going to be thinking like that every session from now up until June? It just struck me that it's moronic. So I was like, nope, not going to be thinking like that anymore. So I decided to just change my mental approach to it. And every session I've been thinking like, this is my PR session. This is going to be my best session ever this cycle. And everything is possible. Like every session I've been super focused on all those thoughts. And I can't speak for anyone else, but for me this is making a big difference.
Awesome. So we have 2 more days. Check-ins are on Friday. Isabella competes on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Grand Prix, which is in the Expo. So if you're coming to Columbus and you want to meet Isabella, we may be around afterwards. Before, please. We need to focus. Afterwards, it'd be awesome to meet you guys. The RTS coaches, me, Ross Lepala, and Paulie Steinman will be in attendance helping out and coaching. Our lifters will be here, and I'd like to get more interviews with more lifters. And Isabella, I want to first thank you for being on here today and talking about so many incredible things. I love your insights, and I hope you guys at home that are listening appreciate it and learn something today.
Reactive Training Systems.